Hey Joe fans, Joe Fan82 here. Today I'm looking at the FSS 5.0 scoop figure from the G.I. Joe Collectors Club. He comes in the retro style packaging we've come to expect from the club. On the top it says GIJoeClub.com exclusive with the G.I. Joe logo. I have to be honest, I'm not a big fan of this artwork. His left arm is looking a little weird. His face just doesn't quite match what I would expect for Scoop, so I'm just not liking this artwork too much. And here's a look at the figure in the package. And here's the back of the packaging. We've got that same artwork on the top left. On the right it says G.I. Joe Club exclusive number 5 figure 4. And we have the file card. It says Combat Information Specialist, codename Scoop. File name Leonard Michaels, primary military specialty Public Affairs Broadcast Specialist, secondary military specialty Combat Documentation / Production, birthplace Chicago, Illinois, grade E4. And the first paragraph says, it takes a special kind of guy to step out from behind cover during a firefight and keep his fingers squeezing the trigger of his video camera. With an advanced degree in journalism as well as a master's degree in electrical engineering, Scoop could have had a secure future with a network news team. Instead, he opted for service on the G.I. Joe team because he wanted to be on the spot when the news was being made, not reporting the aftermath. Scoop's job involves field reporting, hosting, and editing news programs for the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service. He's primarily responsible for creating news stories and operating electronic and film-based still, video, and audio acquisition equipment in order to document combat and non-combat operations. Although some teammates may have resented having a third wheel tagging along, they changed their mind after seeing him carry wounded soldiers to a medevac site. And the quote on the bottom says, I always strive to do my job and then some. Here is Scoop out of the package, and I want to say right off the bat that he does have a problem standing up on his own. I'll show you by removing the figure stand, putting that aside. It takes a bit of doing to get him to stand up. You have to kind of lean him forward. So he will stand up, he just kind of looks like he has a back problem. But after you carry a heavy camera around all day, that's to be expected. Let's take a closer look at the figure. He's got a green helmet with a red visor. This head sculpt was taken from a Sky Patrol figure from last year's concept, and it's very nice. I think the helmet is nicely sculpted, nice detail. The visor has a little bit of a sloppy paint app on the bottom. It kind of bleeds onto his face just a little bit. He has a walkie-talkie radio here on his right shoulder that is removable. He's got a dark orange uniform with an open collar on the top. The sculpting is very nice. He's got a green and black web gear. It's green with black details. I like the sculpt of that, and that's very nice. It's very nice. These arms, I've come to expect these arms almost every other figure. These are on Sneak Peek, on Steel Brigade, so they're getting their money's worth out of those arms. Down on the legs, he's got a holster for a gun, his handgun, and a sheath for his knife on the bottom right, and some black boots. And he's got a few pouches over here on the left. Let's look at his articulation. His head can do a full 360 and a nice range of motion on the ball jointed head. His arms will do a full 360 with a 90-degree bend at the elbow. His hands will do a full 360, and they also have, his right hand has that added joint there, which is nice. He's got the standard leg articulation, double jointed knees. His ankles will do a full 360, and they have an extra ankle joint No rocker ankles here, folks. So let's take a look at his accessories. The most important accessory is the video camera. This is a very nice sculpt. It is gray with black details. The viewfinder does rotate. It's got the G.I. Joe, modern G.I. Joe logo there. One gray and black rifle. One small gray handgun. One small gray knife. And one small microphone. The handgun will slide into the holster on the right, like so. It's very snug. The knife will slide into that sheath. That's also a tight fit. He's got a nice firm grip on the assault rifle. The microphone sits a little loose in his right hand, fits a little better in the left. And he gets a pretty good grip on the handgun as well. Pew, pew, pew. And here's where we get into some trouble. He cannot hold this video camera the way he should in order to operate it. His arm just won't go around and grip the top of it correctly, so it just kind of rests on his shoulder there. Not very well either. You can hold it on the top like that, but this is a pretty big difference from the vintage figure, which had a handle on the bottom of the camera, so he was able to hold it pretty well. And this guy, not so much. Now it's time to contrast and compare. I've got the 1989 vintage Scoop figure here, and as you can see, the colors are a little different. The green is a little brighter on the vintage figure, and he has a bright yellow for the rest of his uniform. The modern figure has a dark orange. I'm not sure why they decided to make a color change like that, but that's what they chose to do. This vintage Scoop had a removable helmet, which I really liked, and unfortunately the modern version does not. It is molded on there, which is a disappointment. Overall, this figure is okay. I was hoping for a great modern version of the vintage Scoop figure, which I really love. Unfortunately, this doesn't quite hit the mark. The non-removable helmet is a strike against it, as well as the video camera that he has trouble using. And he does have a little trouble standing up. Other than that, he's okay. The color isn't too bad. It's different. The orange is different than the yellow on the vintage figure. I'm just not as thrilled with this modern version as I hoped that I would be. So for me, it's a little bit of a disappointment. If you have no connection to the vintage Scoop, this might be a better figure for you if you can get past the fact that he can't hold his camera. Well, that wraps up my look at the FSS 5.0 Scoop figure from the G.I. Joe Collectors Club. Let me know what you think about this figure in the comments below. As always, you can find me on social media via the links in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I've got the now it's time, and one small